We have just now started the recording. Welcome to the Indiana District Export Council Lunch and Learn. I will attempt to turn off the transcript. We will give everyone a few moments to join and log in, and we'll get started probably 1 to 2 minutes after the hour. This is the Export Lunch and Learn, Indiana's agribusiness export sector. All right, it's 12:01. We want to be respectful of everyone's time. I'd like to ask everyone, if you're not speaking, please mute your mic. This is the Indiana District Export Council Lunch and Learn, Indiana's agribusiness export sector. My name is Mark Cooper. I'm the director of the U.S. Department of Commerce office in Indiana. We are the frontline trade promotion agency of the United States government. I'm the director of the Indiana office, and we are connected to the U.S. embassies, all U.S. embassies around the world. And my job is to promote exports and to especially focus on small to medium-sized businesses, getting them into foreign markets. I believe, as Andy has heard me say many times, Andrew, our District Export Council chair, that international trade is a contact sport. So this is exactly what we're doing. We're connecting to each other, and we hope that we'll have a great discussion here today with our many partners and friends. As we begin, obviously this program is being recorded. If you have any difficulties or not comfortable with that, please sign off now. And without any further delay, I'm going to turn it to the chair of the Indiana District Export Council, Mr. Andrew Renke, for his comments and leading of this discussion today. Andrew.
Mark, thank you as always, and thanks for your partnership with the Indiana District Export Council, and thank you for everything you and your office do for Indiana business exporters. A brief description about us. The Indiana DEC, the Indiana District Export Council, is a not-for-profit organization operating under the auspices of the U.S. Department of Commerce. So we work in tandem with Mark. Mark serves as our secretary for the Indiana DEC. And our mission is to promote and support exporting as a way to strengthen Indiana companies, grow the state's economy, and create jobs. We offer one-on-one export counseling, workshops, and webinars, and serve as a focal point of export information and resources for companies across the state of Indiana. Each state in the union has at least one council. Joining us on the Indiana District Export Council today, Christine Everett from IU Cyber and Raju Chintala, Indiana India Business Council and the IEDC. Thank you as always to our collaborative partners, U.S. Department of Commerce, SBA, Exim Bank, IU Cyber, Indiana SBDC, and the Indy Chamber. This is our 6th and final Export Lunch and Learn for 2022. These webinars are offered every other month beginning in January through November and have been increasingly popular. So we're extending them. Originally started them in the pandemic as a way to keep information flowing, but we're continuing it because so many people across the state and sometimes across the country join us. So today we dive into Indiana's agribusiness sector. Indiana is the 8th largest exporting state for agribusinesses. And I did not know that, so it's wonderful to know this. Before we get into the presentations, I'd like to acknowledge our appreciation to both the Indiana Farm Bureau and the Agribusiness Council of Indiana for partnering with us to promote the program. Representatives of both organizations are with us today. Andy Tower is the Executive Director of Public Policy for the Farm Bureau, and Jen Weldon is the Executive Director for the Agribusiness Council of Indiana. If you both could tell us a bit about your organizations, that would be great. Jen, we could start with you first.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. As Andrew said, I am the Executive Director of the Agribusiness Council of Indiana here. We are the trade organization association that represents the plant food, ag chem, grain, feed, seed companies in Indiana. So all the businesses that support and assist the farmers and producers in Indiana. So we try to be, and our goal always is to be the proactive voice for these companies and these organizations in the state. And so we're just happy to be here and learn more about what you guys are doing. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you, Jen. Andy?
Yes, good afternoon, and appreciate being a part of this this afternoon. Andy Tower with Indiana Farm Bureau. We are the largest general ag organization in the state of Indiana. We represent about 65,000 farmers across the state of Indiana, and we have offices and organizations in all 92 counties across the state. And as we think about our members and the export side of the house, we continue to see this as a huge market opportunity, as you know, the bulk of the folks we feed are outside the United States. So anything we can do to help our members, to help our customers and the overall supply chain have better access to markets, we're here to help. We also are part of the American Farm Bureau Federation, so we do have connections to the AFBF team that works directly in Washington, D.C. With some of our congressional delegation and folks at USTR. And so anything we can take here from Indiana to share with them to help drive policy or address issues in the export channels, we're happy to help. And again, thanks for letting us be a part of this today.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Jen. And again, thanks for working with us and let us know going forward how we can help you and your organizations and your companies grow their export market. Well, let's get started with the program. First up is Weaver Popcorn. Paul Sims is the export sales manager at Weaver Popcorn. Weaver is the largest grower, processor, and manufacturer of bulk and microwave popcorn in the world. The Pop Weaver products are exported to over 90 countries on all continents. Paul will be discussing a bit about Weaver's story, which I think dates to 1928, and we'll discuss the company's export history, major markets entered, and foreign trade shows, as well as offer some export tips for success. With that, Mr. Sims, I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, thank you. It's great to meet everybody. Good afternoon. I was really honored when Andrew reached out to me and asked me to speak about our business and how we could potentially, give some advice to help exporters in the state of Indiana and potential exporters. So that being said, I put together a brief presentation, if I could share with you. Just give me one moment here, please. And if you guys have any, we'll keep questions for, I think, at the end. But if you feel free to, reach out to me if you have any questions in the future as well. The brief agenda here is just, I'm going to give a brief introduction about myself, and then a little bit about our company, our export history, some major markets that we participate in, some major trade shows that we participate in, and there's some, tips for success based on the experience that I've had in my career and with Weaver Popcorn. So Weaver is founded, as Andrew mentioned, in 1928, very focused on quality and customer satisfaction. It's still a family company. Our motto is always, no sale is complete until the customer is, if he's not satisfied. And, that is a real challenge, especially when you start dealing with different cultures of different countries, especially throughout the world. We produce about 40% of all the world's popcorn, and we export to over 90 different countries. We do about 53% of all the microwave production in the US. A lot of these brands you probably recognize at Walmart and Costco. The Top Secret brand we're also producing. We do about 70% of the market for ready-to-eat popcorn. We do Trails End for Boy Scouts, Skinny Pop. We're doing the in-house production for these. Also, concession business is another type of business we're involved in that has to do more with stadiums and, the popcorn vendors you'll see in different areas throughout the country and the world. Movie theaters are another big channel for us. So, everybody knows that when you go to the movies, popcorn is very popular, and that they're biggest revenue producers as well. And then for exports, we do about 50% of all the popcorn exports from the US. So we do about 525 million pounds per year. About 50% of that goes to export markets. We have 3 microwave production plants. They produce about 1.1 billion pouches of popcorn per year. We have 2 ready-to-eat facilities with a 40 million pound capacity. And we also, Indiana is one of our main growing regions. It's part of major participant in the Corn Belt. But we do have processing facilities in other states as well, which really helps us to diversify risk in case there's, a bad weather event or some type of shipping situation. So this is one reason we have it, and also because of logistics. Probably recognize some of these large companies that stand out here. We do the Walmart private label, the Costco private label. We're actually producing Skinny Pop and Hershey's. We helped them build a plant. They actually ended up purchasing Skinny Pop, as well as Frito-Lay. All of the we do Frito-Lay Japan as well. We supplied them with all of their kernels for their ready-to-eat manufacturing. A lot of that goes to export, but we do Frito-Lay all over the world also. Some of the major histories and major, our history in major markets. We began exporting over 40 years ago. We currently export to over 90 different countries. It kind of all began in Japan in the 1980s. And Japan is a very particular market, especially when it comes to quality. So our main focus in Japan was on quality. And actually, there are some situations that we had that helped us improve our process. There was a quality situation, for example, and we brought the corn back to the U.S. We analyzed what the issue is, and we really introduced color sorters into the market, within our production to help improve our process and our quality. So this is one of the good things that came out of, entering export markets and helping learn with our different customers and what they're looking for and what their needs are. There's different sales channels throughout our markets for popcorn. We do, we sell to wholesale, retail distributors. We sell to snack food manufacturers such as Japan Frito-Lay. There's other large snack manufacturers throughout the world that we're doing business with. And there's also cinemas throughout the world. And believe it or not, most all of them also like popcorn. They have different tastes and different, there's different styles and different tastes, but at the end of the day, it's still traditionally a cinema product. So for export markets, especially for commodities, it's constantly changing. So, we talk about major markets where we're present and where we were present. And sometimes it's a matter of volume and where your big markets are, but the country rules and regulations are always changing. That's just something I wanted to point out. For example, import permits in China. You used to do a lot of business in Russia until some political situations that, kind of prohibited us from doing business there. Those were major markets, but we still, there's other major markets we're still participating in. Sometimes we're in, sometimes we're out. But Japan is a very consistent market for us. It's a very high quality market, good volumes. China as well, but the government policies are constantly changing, especially when it comes to import permits and what they can and can't do. And then pricing, of course, has since corn is a commodity, the pricing is constantly changing. South Korea is another very good market, especially when it comes to higher quality for snack food manufacturing, cinemas, and retail distribution. They're very open for U.S. products, as well as countries in the EU. A lot of these countries, we compete, for example, in the EU, they produce popcorn, especially in France, they do some in Eastern Europe. So we do compete against local production in these markets, but they still do import good quantities of popcorn. So the EU is a good market, but they also have their rules and regulations. We had a recent trade disagreement, we can call it. So that really increased taxes. So they started purchasing more locally, but we still do a lot of business there for contracted customers. Mexico is a very large market for corn and for U.S. popcorn in general. And then for MENA is for Middle East, North Africa. And once again, it's depending year by year on the situation. The volumes are there. It's really a matter of price and the type of customer that you're going for. And I'll get to that here in just a minute. Some major international trade shows that we participate in. CIAL in Paris. This just happened, I think last month we were there. it was great to be back and have all the face-to-face meetings with our customers and potential customers. That's, I think, the largest trade show in the world, or one of them, for food, very food related. So we participate there. It's biannual. We're there every other year. The same with Anuga. It's in Cologne, Germany. It alternates with CL Paris every other year. So we do Paris one year, we do Germany the next year. And so it's kind of back and forth. It's another great show. And the good thing about these shows, they're European, but you do get a lot of international customers. And you do get a lot of the Middle East, North Africa customers that come. So they are European shows, but there's also a very large national presence. We do Gulf Foods in Dubai. That's every year. And that is, you know, of course, it's more focused on the Middle East region, but that's a very wide region as well. So we're participating in that show. It's annually, and it's coming up here again soon. So there's lots of opportunities at that show as well, especially for bulk or microwave popcorn and retail markets. And then there's a lot of different local specific, market specific local shows. It really depends on the market that we're looking at that we feel has the most potential for growth. So for example, WOFEX in the Philippines. The Philippines is a great, very friendly country when it comes to American business and products. There's a JFEC show in Tokyo. We have really good partners in some of these countries. So it really depends on, you know, what we're looking to do regarding growth, if we have a partner there, if we're looking for a partner there, and how to grow the business. So the CL, the Anuga, the Gulf Foods, we do every year, every other year. And then we also participate in some market specific shows where we feel there's a lot of opportunities. Just some tips for success based on my experience. And sorry, I forgot to introduce. I'm Paul Fens. I'm the export sales manager. I've been in international business about 20 years now. I graduated from the University of Kansas with an economics degree. And, you know, I was really fascinated by international business. So I did some job internships overseas. That's kind of how I got involved in all of this. And then I worked for a chemical company based in Germany for about 10 years. And then I came back to the US, and that's when I joined Weaver. And I've been with Weaver about 10 years. So based on my international experience, my tips would really be to identify which are your target markets for your products, and then look for the sales channels in those markets. As I mentioned, you know, some markets have food service, they have wholesale distribution, you have retail distribution, you know, and cinema. So there's a lot of different sales channels, and every country is different. So, you know, for example, some countries, it's harder to bring in bulk popcorn, or there's labeling requirements. So, you know, my next tip would be to learn as much as possible as you can about the market. So there's a lot of local import regulations, especially when it comes to food and food safety. There's different, you know, fumigation requirements when it comes to grains. There's different types of packaging requirements. So it's challenging sometimes with microwave popcorn. As I mentioned, we're the largest producer. We do about 1 billion pouches per year, which is great, but it's hard for us to change our system. So when it comes to packaging requirements, labeling requirements, anytime we have to change things over, you know, it's costing time and money. So it kind of limits us. So we really have to study what is necessary for the market, how to be successful and bring it in without, you know, any problems or delays in the importation process or certifications and registration. And then I really try to learn about who are the major players in those markets. You know, who are the major importers, who are the major retailers, or in our case, who are the major cinema chains. So it's important to know which markets, you know, what type of business opportunities you have. And then I try to identify, you know, who we really want to do business with and who we want to be partners with. Another tip I would have is just really trying to understand your customer and your customer's needs. You know, as I mentioned, every country is different. There's different cultural aspects that are involved. You know, I think you really should be prepared for issues that can arise when it comes to quality complaints, when it comes to logistics problems and shipping, especially within the past year or two. Logistics has been a real mess and a nightmare. So, just understanding the customer, your relationship with them. And then I'm very upfront with when it comes to these types of issues can come up. There's very sensitive when it comes to food quality and also when it comes to shipping. And then, of course, you have the credit terms and the payments. So understanding what type of customer they are, what type of risks that are involved in doing business with them. We think that's very important for us. We try to avoid, for example, any problems in the importation process because, that leads to delays and extra costs when it comes to demurrage. And, these are all things that can really hurt your bottom line and hurt your relationship and the success of your customer. So understanding them and their needs is very important for us. And then I would really say utilize the government organizations. They're constantly reaching out to us. They have a lot of good, there's a lot of good programs. There's a lot of good educational programs. And even when it comes to marketing and discounts, we use the U.S. Foreign Agricultural Service, which is great for helping us identify who are the major retailers, for example, and who are the major players in their specific markets. So based on the market, we'll reach out to the local office, and they're usually very helpful and very responsive. A lot we do with the Food Export Association. They have lots of good programs. They have lots of good, channels that they can use and avenues when it comes to trade shows and discounts and marketing. And then I guess my last tip is I try to be as flexible as possible. I say this again just because when it comes to a lot of these different packaging requirements, when it comes to customers that are trying to enter and build a product in a new market, they don't want to commit to a large quantity right off the bat. So in order to I think you should really be flexible when it comes to doing a smaller volume, but tailored to what they need in their market to be successful. So I hope that makes sense. That's just kind of the tips that I have. One of our issues we run into is that throughout these trade shows, we meet a lot of people. They want to enter these markets, but as I mentioned, to stop our machines, change the process, do a production run for a small quantity is challenging. But if you can be flexible, you can really help to penetrate and open those types of markets. So thank you very much. I hope there's some questions at the end, and then it's very nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Paul, thank you so much. That was excellent. You're right. We've got some questions coming in, but we're going to save those to the end because I think these types of questions, both Carol and Paul and the rest of the panel could address as well. So excellent presentation, some phenomenal information. We just heard from a large company, a company that's been established since 1928 and has been exporting for 40 years. We're going to now turn to a smaller company that has been in existence for 7 years and exporting for 1 year. So quite extreme. But Carol Podolak, Carol and I know each other going back to 2021 when she went through the Export Accelerator Program through the ISPDC, and a fun 12-week course for that, but helps companies to create export strategies. Bee Nutty co-founder Carol Podolak created Bee Nutty, which is gourmet peanut butter, 7 years ago when looking for nutritious snacks for her son's soccer team. As a former project manager and a mother of 3 children, Carol brought her organizational talents to Bee Nutty and helped grow the company from a home kitchen to a national and then international brand. Carol will discuss the company's relatively new market entry into international sales, why they decided to take the export plunge, and what it's meant to the company's overall strategy. Carol, I'll turn it over to you.
Wow, thanks so much. It sounds so impressive when you say it. I don't know if that was actually the reality. Apologies to everyone. I'm just getting over a little bit of a cold. So very thankful that we're virtual and we're able to still move forward. Yeah, Bee Nutty, we're a small company. We started 7, now actually 8 years ago, right here in Indiana. My business partner, Joy, and myself, we're 2 Indiana soccer moms, and our kids needed to travel. And so a lot of people on the team, if you're familiar with travel sports, They didn't necessarily want to pay for tickets to Texas or pay for tickets to California. So we were always raising money. We were selling candy bars and wrapping paper and candles, and Joy really was tired of that. She wanted to sell something healthy and nutritious. She started making peanut butter in her home kitchen, and I started teaching kids how to sell peanut butter. And that's how Beanutty was born. People fell in love with our fun flavors. They fell in love with our gluten-free pretzel white chocolate peanut butter. They fell in love with our blueberry peanut butter, our caramel peanut butter, our pecan pie peanut butter. And so we went from our home kitchen to a shared commercial kitchen space. We rented by the hour. We started selling in local farmers markets. And it was so impressive to me to hear everything that Paul had to say. I was taking notes as quick as I could because we're the exact opposite. We're tiny and just getting started. We got offered some space on some local store shelves here in Indiana. We started working with some great retailers like Strachan Van Til right in Northwest Indiana. They gave us some shelf space. We started working in that commercial kitchen, and we ended up getting our first version of what we call the Nut House. It's a lot of fun here, and we got it. It was 1,800 square feet. We thought it was huge. We would have plenty of room for the kids to have a foosball table and couches, and how much fun we would have. Well, we outgrew that space pretty rapidly. We actually got offered an opportunity to take the product onto QVC, and if you could, I prepared some slides. Let me just pop these up and share them with you if that's okay. If I can make it play, there we go. This is our journey. For us, it was all about the kids. We were still really raising money. So we got offered an opportunity to take the product on QVC, and we thought, wow, how many more kids could we impact if we had the ability to sell on more of a national scale? These are our Indiana elite soccer players. Joy and I both serve on the board. These are some of our fun flavors, our pretzel peanut butter, our toffee, blueberry, and caramel. If you haven't had a chance to try them, we'd love to share them with you. But when we took it on QVC, that's when things really took a turn. National distributors started reaching out. They started asking if they could find out how to carry our product. We got excited. We got offered an opportunity to actually bring the product into Walmart. We started expanding our commercial facility. We were featured in Rachel Ray magazine. Um, and things really just kind of grew from here. And here's the new nut house. We built it right here in Portage, Indiana. We can make up to 2 million pounds of peanut butter a month. It's 27,000 square feet and growing, and we're really excited about where the company was going, but we had no plans to export. And these are some of the places that we started selling to. You can pick up our peanut butter in Meyer and Fresh Chime. Martin's is another great Indiana, retailer. Kroger, Walmart.com. We just recently had the product on Good Morning America. But then because we work so closely with our ISBDC and the IEDC here in Indiana and all the great resources, we found out about Andy's program, the Export Indiana Accelerator. We thought we were signing up for a class. A class where you can get a little information, find out if it makes sense for you. But we didn't realize it was less of an accelerator and more of an incubator. And he really took us through everything we needed to know. What market should you target? What does export mean? And you have to realize, as two soccer moms from Indiana with no experience, I was a project manager for banks. Joy was a nurse midwife. We had absolutely no idea what we were doing. But all of the knowledge and the information they got made us actually export ready by the end. It was fantastic. They introduced us to the group over at Food Export, which you're going to hear from. We rely on them really heavily. We got to work with Mark and his team. We found all these great resources that the state of Indiana has that are going to help you from absolutely clueless what export even means to how do we successfully export. So we identified our key markets. We identified where we would run into regulatory compliance issues, where to get help for those issues. They helped us identify that there's an American Peanut Council actually helps you with these types of projects, and we were just ever so thankful for it. Because of our work with the Export Accelerator and Food Export in the last year, we've been to London, we went to Gulf Foods, we just got back from Seattle, Paris. We get so much help and support that it makes export sometimes even easier or as easy as our domestic sales because of all of the people that are willing to give us a hand. Now actually exporting and working with 13 different countries. Um, we can't believe we went from the soccer field to everywhere. We've had an opportunity to travel around the world in the last year, but our first export meeting was May of 2021. And that was the very first meeting that we took. And it was right here in Indiana at the Sweets and Snacks Expo, which was at the Indiana Convention Center in Indianapolis, and things have just skyrocketed ever since. And for us, it all goes back to our mission. For us, it's always been about the kids. It's always been about what we do. So for our student athletes, what we're able to do with the growth at Be Nutty, we helped build an 8 soccer field complex right here in Portage, Indiana, where we host showcases and bring in college coaches from all over the United States. We're able to offer scholarships to youth athletes. We're able to offer SAT prep, ACT prep. We were able to take what we're doing and leverage it into helping our community and doing more good. And that's really kind of the most exciting part, to hear all of the kids who intern with us and the soccer families that help us out say, we can't believe we started selling this as a fundraiser when you guys were hand labeling jars in your kitchen. And now we're seeing you travel all over the world. And the kids are coming back and interning for us from college. And everything has just really come full circle. And so that's us in a nutshell. I wish I had as much great information as Paul had to share. But we're so small, and just really kind of so excited that we're leaning on all the resources that you're going to hear about on this call. And that's why we were able to do what we did.
Carol, thank you. That's fantastic presentation, and thank you again for agreeing to share your story. Would you mind, and you don't have to, would you mind letting the viewers know the percentage of your general revenue exports now contribute?
Yeah, so when we first got started, we thought, wouldn't it be cool if we sold our peanut butter to somebody on the other side of the world and they ate that jar? And that was really our goal. Our goal was so small. It was, imagine if somebody, in Australia or someone in Europe was eating our peanut butter, just one jar. I mean, we weren't big dreamers. We thought that would be great. And now export is over 35% of our revenue this year. And that's just in 1 year. And we always say better lucky than good, right? We were lucky enough to be in the right place, in the right state, and meet the right people to get the support that we needed. But export is growing, and we're actually holding it at 30% because I think other countries are really looking to America for food innovation, and that's what's so exciting to us. And so we're not taking more deals than that because we're trying to keep our production diversified, because if we did have another pandemic, relying heavily on export, we feel like would be a little scary. And so working with some of these great advisors, we figured out what amount of export sales we wanted to go after and how to keep it there.
Thank you.
No
That's the blissfully blueberry is my favorite, and it is incredible. That is incredible. In the mornings, have that on.
Okay, Andy, you can't do that. I've got my favorites too. So if we're going to start doing this could be a problem.
Which one's yours, Mark?
I'm not telling. I got a couple.
Okay. All right. And then Pop Secret. I didn't realize Weaver made Pop Secret. That's my go-to popcorn. So this is excellent. And just think of this. Think of this. 50% of Weaver's revenue comes from exports. 35% of Be Nutty's revenue comes from export. For the nation at large, 11.5% of our $23 trillion economy comes from export. So we, all of us on this call, are trying to move the nation, move the state, and move companies closer to that 35%. And my gosh, if we made it to 50%, the way Weaver has and Germany has as a percentage of GDP, that would be like adding the size of Japan's economy to that of the United States. Trillions. We're leaving trillions on the table by not going after the foreign markets aggressively. So thank you again to Carol and to Paul. And as Carol mentioned, as Paul mentioned, there are a ton of resources available to help you get there, to help grow your exports. Those individuals are joining us today. First off is Food Export Association of the Midwest. Leading that discussion will be Paul Weiss. Paul serves as liaison manager at Food Export Midwest, which covers, I think, 13 states, where he's been assisting food and ag producers since 2011. Food Export utilizes funding from the U.S. Department of Agriculture to help food and value-added ag producers grow their export sales. The association offers export education, connects U.S. suppliers to foreign buyers, and manages a program which provides companies 50% reimbursement on their foreign market expenses. Joining Paul today is Abby Clark. Abby, nice to meet you today. And you are our new contact to Food Export Midwest for the state of Indiana. So Abby Clark recently joined Food Export as the liaison contact for Indiana companies. She provides information and customer service related to food export programs for Indiana food and value-added agricultural businesses. Again, welcome to you both, and thank you for joining us today. Paul and Abby, I turn it over to you.
Great.
Andrew.
Well, yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Andrew, for the introduction, and Mark for inviting us to participate in the call. We're so excited to be here this afternoon to just talk a little bit more about what programs that we offer, and the presentations have been fantastic so far. So thank you, Paul and Carol, for the information that you guys have provided. I am also a blissful blueberry guy myself, Andrew. I'll throw that out there. So I'll pull up some slides here. I'll run through some general information about us and a few of our programs and services. I'll pass it over to Abby. She's going to talk a little bit about our branded program, the reimbursement program, and then I think that will cover it for us. Okay, can everyone, Andrew, you see the slides? All right, great. So who is Food Export? We are a private nonprofit international trade association. We're one of 4 state regional trade groups. I'll talk about that in a second. Basically, we get funding from the Foreign Agricultural Service. Paul referenced them in his earlier presentation. They are the international marketing branch of the USDA. And we apply for funding every year through them, through what's called the Market Access Program. And then we receive that funding. And our mission is to help Midwest food and agricultural producers with growing their export sales. Most often we work with small and medium-sized companies. We do focus on predominantly, we do help with ingredients, but we do work predominantly with companies that are value-added and consumer-oriented, things you'd find in grocery stores, and our members are the different state departments of agriculture. I'll talk about that in just a second. So yeah, we're one of 4 state regional trade groups. So the Foreign Agricultural Service has offices all around the world. They produce excellent market research and reports for food and agricultural producers from the U.S. who want to get into some of these international markets. So I highly encourage everybody, if you haven't been to FAS's website, check it out, and they have a lot of really great resources on there. But they don't have domestic offices. Instead, they give funding to these different cooperator groups, they're called, to help promote exports of food and ag products. And so we're one of 4. We have Food Export Midwest. We actually have what we call a strategic alliance with Food Export Northeast. And then there's a Southern United States trade group and Western United States for companies that are headquartered in the South and the West, respectively. But talking about the Midwest, of course, here it kind of breaks down the states and the companies that we can work with. And of course, the Indiana State Department of Agriculture, they are one of the members of our association. We'll hear from Drew pretty soon. But through that membership from Indiana State Department of Ag, then our programs become available to Indiana companies. So that was a lot of background, but what does this mean for you? What's in it for me, so to speak, of how do we help companies? So we have 3 kind of tiers of programs that we offer to help companies in their mission of growing export sales. If we can help U.S. companies grow their international sales, that's a success for us. We want more Weaver popcorns and Beet Nutties out there. So the first tier is exporter education. We recommend that companies, if they're brand new to exporting, get started with some of these types of programs. And then moving into this market entry is the purple area, and that's where we can help connect you with qualified international buyers. And then lastly is this market promotion, is how can you use funding from our programs to expand your brand and grow your market share in international markets. So for export education, All of these programs that I'm mentioning here are no cost. Companies just have to create an online account on our website. That takes 10 minutes. If you don't already have one, and you can have access to this. We do at least one webinar every month on a different exporting topic. And again, we're all food and ag. That's our mandate. That's what we focus on. So we do one webinar per month. And then once the webinar's done, we post the recording on our website. So there's a huge database of pre-recorded webinars over the last 5-6 years. Tons of export education content at your fingertips, totally for free. You can watch at your leisure. Export Essentials Online is a 11 core. It's kind of like an 11 module. We consider it like a college course on exporting, where you can walk through different topics. You can start from the beginning. You could pick whatever topic you want, and then it walks you through, helps give you information, does little like quizzes along the way to help you out. So that's also free for companies. If you're brand new to exporting, make an account. You can get started on that, totally no cost. We have an advisor program as well, similar to what Andrew provides, but for Indiana companies, certainly recommend Andrew's assistance in that regard. And then we'll occasionally host seminars throughout the states. So market entry, this is that purple section, and this is designed to help U.S. companies get in touch with qualified international buyers, the fun stuff, so to speak. Buyers missions, that's when we bring qualified international buyers, again, all food products, to the United States, and then they can have sit-down one-on-one meetings with U.S. companies. And we joke it's kind of like speed dating. Companies, you can sign up, you have your own table, have your materials, your samples, sell sheets, whatever you'd like, and then the buyer will move one by one to the different tables and have sit-down meetings with you. So you meet with the buyer from Japan for 20 minutes, then you meet with the buyer from Korea, and then the Middle East, then Mexico. And so we have lots of those opportunities throughout the year. They're usually in conjunction with a food show that happens in the U.S., but we do occasionally standalone missions, including our Midwest Buyers Mission, which comes to Chicago in July. Trade missions is the reverse. U.S. companies go abroad and have meetings with suppliers in a foreign market. Food Show Plus is where we help U.S. companies who are going to these big international food shows. Carol talked about several shows that she attended. So did Paul about shows they do every year. CL Paris, Anuga, Gulf Food. If you're going to get a booth at some of these big international shows, you can take advantage of this Food Show Plus. That's where our local in-market representative in that market will bring buyers to your booth. They send invitations to buyers to visit. Basically, they advertise you and your company and come visit them at whatever booth. And then we also can provide an interpreter at your booth throughout the show. They'll help go through your business cards, follow up with this one right away. This one, you can wait a little bit. So basically helps U.S. companies really get the most out of their trade show experience. And then we have quite a few other programs here. I won't really go into them, but we can do market research. We can help qualify leads. If you get contacted by a buyer at a show online, it's always hard to know, is this buyer legit? We have services that can help with that. You can talk to our in-market reps whenever you want through a virtual consultation. And then we have other ongoing year-long programs to get you in touch with buyers. So lastly, is this market promotion concept. I'm going to let Abby talk through this a little bit, but this is a really popular program that we offer to help companies get 50% back on their marketing expenses. So I'll leave it there. Abby, go ahead and take over.
Hi, everyone. Looking forward to serving as your liaison for Indiana companies. So yeah, like Paul and Andrew mentioned, the last tier of this program is our Brandon program, 50% reimbursement on all international or specific international marketing expenses. So mainly this is helping small eligible businesses. They have to be considered a small business by the Small Business Association, but companies can get up to $300,000 in reimbursement annually for costs once they've kind of established that international presence. And also, since we're funded by the USDA, these companies do have to be promoting 50% USA agriculturally grown products. So if you're eligible, you can apply every single year for this program as long as you'd like. And yeah, 50% of those costs are reimbursed. We actually helped Be Nutty this year, I think, and I wanted to mention that I'm a pecan pie fan. It's fine. So a couple of the eligible expenses for this program are freight for sample shipments, if you're sending those over, packaging and labeling, if you need to make any changes on your labeling to comply with foreign markets, that's covered. International trade shows, along with travel to and from, flights, hotels, everything that really helps, as well as certain U.S. trade shows that have an international presence. Also website, social media, digital ads, influencers, these are all huge right now. These can't be understated how important this is. So these costs are reimbursable as well, up to 50%. In-store promotions, if you want to have a little display in a foreign supermarket, marketing expenses from your importers. If you have any more questions about specifics of this program, please don't hesitate to reach out to me as your new liaison. That's what I'm here for. And we are currently accepting applications for our 2023 program year. So if this is something that seems interesting or something that you can pass along to any suppliers, we appreciate that. My information is here on the PowerPoint, and we'll be sending this to Mark and Andrew so that everybody has this information. But
Yes,
thanks
please
again.
do.
Thank you.
Nice to meet
Thank you,
everyone.
Abby.
Yep.
Great. Excellent. And that was an excellent presentation to both of you. Very helpful information, a huge amount of resources that are available through Food Export. And we'll next hear from a friend of mine and a colleague at the Indiana Small Business Development Center, Monty Henderson. Monty has engaged 2,300 clients as an SBDC business advisor over many years, which includes several dozen export clients. Monty and I have worked on a few projects together, including companies going through the accelerator. He is also a former assistant general manager of an agribusiness, is a lifelong farmer entrepreneur. Having led the Hoosier Heartland SBDC for several years, he now is the statewide director of the relatively new Indiana SBDC Agribusiness Initiative. Monty, if you'd be so kind to tell us a little bit about your role and your mission.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm thrilled to be with this great group and panel. Some really good information here this morning. And for the record, I've got to throw in so I really enjoy Skinny popcorn and caramel. The caramel peanut butter, when you warm it up and put it on ice cream, it's a good combination. So there you have it. So also sidebar, I have been a popcorn producer in the past, and I grew a little popcorn for Weaver back in the day. So not a simple crop to grow, but and I understand when Paul said we've got to spread this out, production out. It's like, yes, sir, I understand why. But great experiences there. So, and I guess that leads into a little bit about, I'll say a little bit about me first, and this will be real brief, but I've got a lot of practical experience in the ag world. That's really what I want to throw out to the group today. I've been involved with SBDC for a long time. And SBDC is that wonderful acronym of the Small Business Development Center. And I would suspect that just almost everybody that's on our call would qualify for assistance from the Small Business Development Center. And even if you don't, still reach out because we're well connected, and this team and this group of people of all these services, we all like each other. We don't compete, and we're quick to say, hey, you need to talk to this other person on the team. So feel free to reach out. So the Indiana Agribusiness Initiative, the SBDC Agribusiness Initiative, is relatively new. We started up in March. It's an extension of the Small Business Development Center. We have a partnership with Purdue Extension and the State Department of Agriculture and the Indiana Small Business Development Center and the Indiana Economic Development Corp. So I'm your acronym guy. But the fun part about that is that we have all this wonderful connectivity through a single point of contact. And like this collaboration today, I'm here to learn as much as the next person, and our job at SBDC is to understand all these resources. And generally, if I only had one thing to send home with you, is we are the folks that you can call and say, hey, I was on that seminar and I really don't know who to talk to next. We can be that source that can help you sort out all the options that are out there. And really, before you jump in and try to sell something internationally, you've got to have a bit of a strategy. Before you go to a trade show, you've got to have a strategy. There's a lot of planning and preparation that goes along with that. And you may have the best product ever, but you have to be able to organize that in a way that you can present it to others. Like Paul mentioned, understanding the market is so important. And so we have these tools at the SBDC, as well as our personal one-to-one business advising, where we can sit down in confidence and just learn about what you're trying to achieve. And then we can try to pull all those resources together and help you understand and to develop that business plan, that business strategy on how we can export, how can we move this product further, and where to move it to. And that's where Drew and Andrew come in here, and you're getting ready to hear from Drew. These guys are awesome in their international knowledge, and again, with most of the rest of the team. But we'll help prep you up. The Indiana SBDC has export advisors, and I happen to be one of those. And again, the team that I get to lead, I'm blessed to we have 10 folks that have a variety of agricultural experiences. And then because of the Purdue connectivity as well, we usually have a nice open door into the university system to be able to find out very specific industry needs. A really brief example, I've had a couple of aquaculture clients, one of them that is involved with some international activity. And I reached out to a Purdue agricultural economics professor who life is aquaculture, and he told me more than in a half hour than what I would have researched would have taken me a whole week. And so to have access to all these wonderful folks that have all this great expertise is so valuable. And our services are free to our clients. And the other important thing to point out is everything is held in strict confidence as well. When you speak with us, we're going to be professional. We're going to be full of courtesy, and happy to serve you in any way to help your businesses to grow. And so that's what we stand for. So I am going to drop a link into the chat box, a way to reach out to our agribusiness initiative, as well as any of the SBDC services, and then also my email if you'd like to reach back to me and connect. So thanks again, everybody, for having me on today, and I look forward to connecting with you folks.
Monty, thank you. I appreciate it. And great overview of your new service and your role with agribusiness for the state. Next up, and our final speaker, is Drew Sherman. He is the lead contact for the companies that want to go into foreign markets from the state side. Drew Sherman is the International Trade Director for the Indiana State Department of Agriculture. Drew consults with Indiana agribusinesses and food companies to provide export education and market access, and supports, and he advocates for Hoosier business products and services in global markets. The ISDA works with all agricultural commodities and value-added and manufactured food and feed products made in Indiana in collaboration with commodity groups and industry associations. Drew also works hand in hand with the USDA and with Paul and Abby at Food Export. So with that, Drew, I'll throw it over to you. And I think once we're done, we have a little bit of time for some questions.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. And thanks to the Indiana District Export Council just for putting this on. I'll do my best to go quickly so we do have time for questions. But as Andy said, I am Drew Sherman. I'm the International Trade Director for the Indiana State Department of Agriculture, and my primary role at ISDA is advocating for Indiana agricultural products in global markets and preparing Indiana companies to engage in international trade. So I do this in 4 ways, and you're going to hear that there is a lot of overlap with some of the other presenters on the call. We do collaborate in a number of different ways, but first is just that education and outreach piece. There are many organizations involved in trade in every industry, and agriculture is no different. So a large part of my role is just in connecting and aligning partners to support agribusinesses as they engage in trade. And then second, supporting the Agribusiness Initiative and Monty's team, providing our expertise and time to advising businesses engaged in ag trade. And market access. This is the way that we aim to connect Indiana businesses directly with foreign buyers. So what you heard from Paul Weiss and Abby Clark, this is really a big piece of that, is getting Indiana suppliers in front of foreign buyers. And then lastly is that financial assistance piece, promoting cost sharing programs and any other grant opportunities as we come across them. So Indiana exports everything from ag commodities like soybean, corn, hogs, all the way to intermediates and value-added processing products that could be used as ingredients in food or animal feed. And then finally, to the types of products you might pick up at your local grocery store, what we call consumer-oriented products. And an example that I have on this slide is just as you see soybeans, that first commodity moving into products like soybean meal or oil as it's processed or used in many ingredients for consumer ready food products that are probably a lot of them in your own diet. Another example would be for our hardwood sector. Indiana produces and exports a significant amount of hardwood logs. But we also have value-added products like lumber and veneer, and then also to the consumer goods like cabinets, flooring, doors, and furniture. Now I have this slide just to give a high-level glance at where Indiana ranks among U.S. states in certain ag products in production. As many of you probably expect, Indiana is a top 5 producer in corn and soybeans, but we also rank in the top 5 for many other products, including duck, popcorn, and some specialty crops, as well as others that you see here on this list. And I just want to give a quick overview of really what those export numbers are. So as Andy mentioned, we are the #8 agricultural exporter in the US. And in 2021, which we just got these numbers last month, agricultural exports exceeded $6.6 billion. It was about $5.2 billion in 2020. And it's important to point out that over the last 5 years, Indiana's ag export growth has been outpacing the US as a whole. And there's a number of different factors that affect that trend, but this isn't an economics seminar, so I'll spare you some of those. But you will see regarding commodities, our top 4 trading partners buy up just under 2/3 of our total commodity export value. But overall, there are over 60 countries that buy at least $1 million worth of ag commodities from Indiana. So we do spread around a lot of those exports. And the agribusiness advising piece, Monty touched on this, so I won't carry too much more other than to say that I'm also one of those business advisors specializing in agricultural exports. So we can also support new and experienced exporters with a variety of topics, including market research items like tariffs, supply and logistics, free trade agreements affecting agriculture, certificates of free sale or product testing, etc. The list goes on. However, I would say that our best resource in this advising offering is, as others have mentioned, the community of trade and exporting subject matter experts. So I really do believe that ISDA's most important function in this space is just operating as a signpost for agribusinesses as they step into trade. Our department strongly values and supports the strategic partnerships that we have with organizations like the Indiana DEC, the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, USDA, and the Foreign Ag Service. But I also want to praise our partnership with Food Export Association of the Midwest. I truly believe that Paul, Abby, and the rest of the team at Food Export have a tremendous capacity to support businesses pursuing global markets. And I really can't say enough about how valuable their services are for businesses that are starting out in trade. And lastly, I want to call out how important our various state commodity groups and industry associations are when engaging in trade. There really are just too many to list on a single slide. But these are groups like Indiana Soybean Alliance, the American Dairy Association Indiana, Indiana Hardwood Lumbermen's Association, and there are also more than a dozen other groups like this and their federal counterparts that are critical to growing the overall demand for Indiana and US products. And I have a slide here just for when we share out the materials later on some of the cost sharing funding available. I just have a comparison of the Food Export Branded Program and the Indiana InStep program. They have a similar line item of eligible expenses, but it's a good resource if you have any Indiana businesses that are looking for those resources. It's just a quick comparison, but I'm also happy to connect you with the program managers for those. And the last piece before I close out is just giving really 5 concise steps for any agribusinesses that are considering exports. And for many of our supporters in the webinar, this is maybe items that you could give as recommendations to agribusinesses you work with. First would be contact me, have them tell me a little bit about their business and what they need help with. 2, absolutely recommending companies to sign up for Food Export Midwest and take advantages of the services that they offer as long as they're eligible. 3, becoming a client of the Agribusiness Initiative. That no-cost business advising services is tremendous. And then 4, really consider how you might participate or incorporate in your export strategy market access opportunities like trade shows, trade missions, buyers missions, because these are great opportunities to be directly in front of buyers with a product that needs to be seen, smelt, felt, held to really evaluate. And then lastly, if you're already marketing internationally, apply for the branded program or InStep funding. These are really great programs and they can help double your marketing budget. I also provide my contact information. I'm on LinkedIn, would be happy to connect with anyone in this space. But really, that's all that I have for my time. So Andy, I'll give it back to you. And I think Mark is going to work through some of the questions we may have had.
Thank you, Drew. Excellent presentation, great overview. We are at 1 o'clock. However, if you don't mind, we're going to stay a little bit longer to go over some questions and appreciate if some people have to drop off, that's okay. I will also drop in my
Andy, you just muted yourself.
Sorry about that. I'll put my contact information for the deck, for the Indiana deck, if you're interested. Thank you again, Drew, for that excellent overview. Mark, if you could walk through some of the questions for a couple of minutes. I know we're going over.
Sure. We'll just do maybe perhaps a couple questions in the chat. First of all, does Weaver also reach out to APHIS, the Animal Plant Health and Inspection Service, on import regulations and compliance issues that's different from FAS? So, Paul, do you work with APHIS a bit, or how does that work?
Yes, we do. We're fully integrated. So even when it comes to the seeds that actually grow popcorn, so there's a lot of different agencies that we work with depending on the needs of the customer. So we actually have the hybrid seeds, and then we contract farmers that grow for us, and then they bring it to us for the production and manufacturing. So yes, we're in touch with APHIS. We're in touch with a lot of different organizations.
Excellent.
Yeah, you have to get certified, correct? Through APHIS?
Yes, yes.
And there are so many resources on the call today, on the webinar today, that we can all take advantage of. You've heard just a really great presentation from many large companies, small companies, resource and service providers. There are so many tools at your disposal. I don't see any other questions in the chat at this moment, and we are just a little over. Do you want to hang out longer, Andy, or should we adjourn?
Well, any other questions from...
For the good of the order, right?
Yes, yes. Well, I think it was interesting. You went into some of the difficulties with some of these markets in the last couple of years and the trade impacts and the trade, I think the term trade war was used, trade difficulties, challenges in the last, particularly last several years. A general question to you, Paul and Carol, do you see that lessening over the coming months and years, or what's your general consensus?
I guess I'll speak first. I can't speak for Carol, but for us, it's very dynamic. It's constantly changing. And for commodities, it's different from year to year. Sometimes we compete against other countries. So Argentina is a big grower of popcorn, France, South Africa. So it's very dynamic, and it's really changing by year to year. It's changing by government administrations, not only in the U.S., but in other countries as well. So it's hard to say if we foresee things improving or letting up, but like I said, it's just a constantly changing dynamic situation that we really have to stay on top of and pay attention to.
Carol?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I mean, we're not experienced with this, so this is a really new thing for us. But the one thing that we do know is that we're lucky enough to partner with companies that can help us keep up to date with compliance and regulatory issues that are coming down from other countries. So relying on companies like Food Export, like yourself, like Mark Cooper's team, and saying, what's going on, what's changing. It's nice to have feet on the ground in other countries to keep you abreast of that. And I think that's really one of the biggest benefits we have. We don't have the resources to have a specialist in each country we're talking to, and so we rely on yours, and that's pretty amazing.
Excellent.
Okay. Well, we really, this has been a great program today. We're excited that we were able to present this information to you, and this is a part of our Lunch and Learn series. Andrew, any final comments as regarding the Lunch and Learn programming?
Well, that's it for 2022. January 19th, 2023, we generally kick it off with pulling in all of the state's resources on export development. So we'll do that again in January 19th, and we'll be doing a bit of a deep dive into the InStep program, that grant matching program that Drew mentioned and Carol mentioned, which also will be joined by the SBA, discussing export working capital, and the Export-Import Bank of the United States, along with the ISBDC, IU Cyber. I think that's I think that's about it for that discussion. And that will be hosted on our website, indianadec.org, where you can find out future events. So again, thank you to all the speakers. This was an excellent exercise, and we want to do this again with Food Export, with the Agribusiness Council of Indiana, with Indiana Farm Bureau, ISBDC, and U.S. Department of Commerce. Thank you especially to Paul Sims and Carol Podolak as always. So you guys all have a fantastic Thursday and rest of your week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Bye now.
Likewise.